because that's what I was going to say. Like, one of the ways to build that creative self-confidence and self-esteem, the language that I use is different from yours, but we're essentially saying the same thing, which is you need to understand your parts, right? We are made up of so many different parts, some of which we're more familiar because of how often they show up, others we're not, right? And if you can understand the different parts of you, you can build a relationship with them in a way that that they become flexible, that you're able to reframe and restructure the unhelpful parts, right? Not get rid of, because elements of us have come to be for many different reasons, right? And most parts, all parts, in my belief, are inherently trying to help us. And I think some of our parts are just misguided, right? So for example, I have a procrastination part, right? And some people choose to like name their parts based on like how it shows up. Other people will just say like, oh, I've got this one part of me that does da da da. But if you notice, like, that's kind of common language, right? Just not even from like a psychological jargon perspective, but just when you're talking to your friends, you know how you'll say like, girl, one part of me feels this, but another part of me has this, right? That's valid. Within us, there are so many different parts that exist at the same time, right? So like I was saying, I have a procrastination part. My procrastination part is directly correlated to anxiety because I get nervous or fearful about an outcome, and then I'll procrastinate to keep it from happening, right? And so the procrastination part of me is then in a little internal tug of war with the determined and imaginative and creative part of me, because that part wants to be expressed, but the procrastination part is afraid that it might not land well or be successful or be the way that I'm envisioning it in my mind, right? And so understanding those parts of me, knowing that they're there. Notice I'm a therapist, but I'm not denying, right, that I have a procrastination part. I'm not denying that I have an anxious part. I'm not denying that I have a depressed part, right? But because I have a relationship to those parts of me and I understand them thoroughly, when they show up, I know how to manage them. I know how to reframe them. I know how to walk around. I know how to make a U-turn when I need to make a U-turn, you know? And so it's really about like grasping that internal family system, which is like what this theory and the parts and all of that I'm referring to is called.
Yeah. I love that. I love that because first off, let's just give you some credit for the fact that like because you're here listening to this conversation, right? You might have already moved around, reframed, like stepped past a part that said, oh, like you are not like, I don't know, maybe you thought to yourself, I'm not worthy of this, or I'm not good enough, or I don't know enough about my practice, or no one's ever going to accept me to anything, right? Like, and those are all thoughts that I have had, right? I think that we all have. And so you've already done something huge by even just like signing up for this course to be in this container. So like, let's full stop, like shout outs to you for that.
Absolutely.
But I love what you're saying about like the parts and particularly how like procrastination leads to anxiety, because that was so huge for me when I was like first starting to like do the work of putting myself out there, but also like step into taking my practice more seriously. Mm-hmm. It would be like, well, you know, you don't have you need to write this application and you're putting it off because you're anxious about it because you don't know how it's going to go. And when that's happening in my brain, right, it feels easier for me to just tell myself no and like control the outcome versus to like take the risk, take the chance, mm-hmm. and risk it not going how I want to, right? Because ultimately, like my therapist has told me that like our brains are trying to keep us safe. Mm-hmm. And so that's for me what's often happening when I'm like procrastinating and then stuck in an anxious loop. It's like I feel like that's keeping me safe, And maybe in some ways it is, but it's also not like helping me move closer to the life that I want to have and like the way that I want to live my life.
Mhm.
And so part of also what I'm hoping that you get from this course and what's been so helpful for me is because I have a system of how I do these things, I don't have to procrastinate and be anxious because the stuff is already ready.
Yep.
So all I have to do is, once I've gotten my materials to a place that I'm happy with, I tweak a few things, I upload it, and I let it go.
Mhm.
Right? Because I did the work up front of one, like getting over the procrastination and anxiety hump, getting what I needed to have ready so that it's a lot, it becomes not impossible, but it's a lot harder for me to tell myself no because I have what I need.
Mhm.
And it's almost like in doing that work, I've like regulated my nervous system because I know I have what I need and like I have a place I can go to get it. So it's like you don't need to freak out about this
Yeah.
because like you're actually okay and you've like you've done the like work to, I don't know, to do what you need to do to hopefully, right? Because like I can't control what, this is the other thing I talk about a lot with my therapist, is she's like, well, what piece of this can you actually control? And all I can control is the time I spend like putting my materials together and making sure I get it uploaded by the time it's supposed to be uploaded, right? Or that I show up to the studio when I said I was going to show up to the studio to make or, do whatever I'm going to do. I cannot control at all like how it's received by other people or if I get on to the different opportunity, right? So like focusing on those aspects of it too
Mhm.
and like systematizing them has really helped me um, get past some of those like right procrastination parts or like anxiety or not even get past, just like be in a healthier relationship with them, right? Whereas in the past they would have like stopped me in my tracks, and now I can be like, okay, cool, you're procrastinating because you're anxious, but also, girl, like you got what you need to have, so take a nap and then like let's figure it out.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I love how you self corrected when you were saying, like, not getting past the part, right? But being in better relationship with it. Because if you think about it, right? The reason why you know how to organize yourself in the way that you do is because of your procrastination part and your anxiety.
Mm,
It gives you this opportunity to get in better practice with yourself, right? It's
yeah,
bringing forth information like, hey, we should work on this. It's not just like your procrastination part is just a mean, cranky part of you that's just trying to be in the way, right? It's actually there because
yeah,
something feels off. So I'm going to try to control what I can control, which is how much effort I put in and not put any, right? Because then the outcome that I fear won't happen, right? And
right,
so when you're in relationship with that part, not only do you understand like, oh, I procrastinate, you understand how you procrastinate, right? What that looks like for you.